Hey, everybody, and welcome to Pass, Shoot, Score. I'm Anna Connelly, joined by Jonny Lazarus and Shukri Wrights. Guys, let's waste no time. You know what? Actually, let's waste a little bit of time. How you guys feeling today?
I'm feeling great, getting ready to go to Madison Square Garden for the Rangers to take a 3-1 lead against the Devils. I'm super confident, no doubts, no panic. Let's do this thing.
I'm excited because I'm in a great mood because the Bruins are 3-1 in the series, and Game 5 is going to be an absolute war on at TD Garden. So I'm fired up. Let's do this.
Well, my LA Kings suffered a tough loss last night, hence why you can see the bet. I tried to put nice little caffeine serum, but I'm exhausted today. I was up until like 1 a.m., didn't get home until 1 a.m., and then I booked a workout class at 7 a.m. I don't know why, but we're here. We're doing
Overachiever.
the yeah, right. We're doing the
Classic.
damn thing. Let's get into it. So my first question for you guys, whoever wants to answer it first, you can, but 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points, and 16 penalty minutes. I would expect him to have more in the playoffs, but Matthew Tkachuk, would you want him on your team or do you not want him on your team, and why?
Honestly, no. I mean, maybe my feelings will change once the series ends, but absolutely not. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk is the kind of player who, obviously, offensively, he's talented, he's gifted, but just some of the antics that they displayed in Game 4 yesterday just really make me look at him differently. Whereas, is this the kind of player that is gifted but can cost you games in the playoffs? Because he certainly cost the Panthers a game yesterday with his immaturity and his antics, especially most notably when you cross check Garnet Hathaway in the rib. So that in itself told me like, no, in the playoffs, I need players that's going to help the team win, not someone's going to cost you games.
I'm super opposite of Shukri, no disrespect, but give me Matthew
I
Tkachuk
listen.
all day long. I'll take Tkachuk over. I'll take Tkachuk over Matthews, Marner. I'll take Tkachuk over any of the top 10 players, maybe outside of McDavid and McCarr and McKinnon. Like, I'll take Matthew Tkachuk all day. He's a guy that will fight for you, fight for the guy next to him. And the stupid shit happens every now and then in hockey. And listen, his team's down in the game, down in the series. He's trying to stir things up a little bit, get the pot rolling. So I'm all for it.
By cross checking, really,
Yeah,
Johnny.
dude.
Stop it, dude.
Would you
Stop
rather
it.
your team get cross-checked or give the cross-check? That's what.
No, actually, we rather beat you by the score on the scoreboard. I mean, like that whole
Yeah.
thing is, yeah.
Well, I'm a New Yorker and we never win, so I'll just take the cheap shots all
Stop
day.
it. I'm a New Yorker too, but we do win, but we do take more losses than W's.
But I'm a big Matthew Tkachuk fan, so I would love to have him on my team.
I'm gonna piggyback off of Johnny here, only because, and then plus I'm a little bit of a homer because I kind of grew up with him a little bit. I haven't talked to
Okay.
him in years,
Yeah.
but we both grew up in Arizona, and he was always like that from like age 2. We'd be at Coyotes events, and he also takes after his dad. That's I think we can just leave it that. But he's a nice. I think he's a Southie, right, Shukri? So they're a Boston born and bred group. I'm pretty sure his dad at least, and there's some crazy stories out there. But next one, let's get this rolling. Kings Oilers, my series. They're knotted at 2-2, unfortunately, after last night. Who do you guys have in this series? And I guess my biggest thing. So Leon Draisaitl has just been absolutely playing lights out. I feel like the Kings are trying to pressure McDavid, and that kind of got away from them in Game 3 with a back-to-back power play goal by McDavid. But what do you think? How do you think the Kings are containing him so far?
Well, as we're recording, Draisaitl was leading the entire playoffs and scoring with 9 points, so he's obviously been a huge difference maker. As far as McDavid goes, it's hard to say he's been not as good as he usually is because he's obviously inhuman, but they've definitely contained him really well. And when you look at their roster, I mean, Anze Kopitar, Adrian Kempe, Philip Deneau, those 3 guys are really strong defensively and they're 200-foot players. And, as far as the Kings go, they're arguably one of the best top to bottom teams, I think, in the playoffs. And I think a lot of people picked them to be one of the underdogs that could upset just on Edmonton's history in the playoffs. But I mean, what can you say about the resilience in Edmonton? Last night going down 3-0, coming all the way back and winning in overtime. And not to toot my own horn, but I did predict Zach Hyman as the overtime winner. I did the Bucci Gross overtime challenge and only picked Hyman. So hit my money line bet on the Oilers and hit that one. So I was excited about that.
You know what's interesting about that game last night, and something that stood out to me is that I think the Oilers in years past they would have just given up in that type of game. But what you saw, and I talked about this in my own Twitter space after the Bruins Game 4 win last night, and I said, this Oilers team is different. this year. And maybe a lot of it has to do with the fact that they went out and they got Matthias Ekholm from Nashville and they brought him in. But you saw this team has had a lot of balls for them to come back in the way that they did. I think it's pretty impressive. And the last point that I want to make is my concern for the Oilers in this series is that they have been weak 5-on-5, but their power play has been lethal. You can't ride your power play all the way to the Stanley Cup without at least a somewhat of a decent 5-on-5. And last night you really saw that the 5-on-5 play started to improve a bit, and I think that's going to be a huge confidence booster for the Oilers going home for Game 5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, they were 2 for 2 on the power play out of the second period. So 2 of their 3 goals in that second period were power play goals, which was great. And then for me, the Kings, like, we talk a lot. So I do in-arena, pregame hits, kind of telling you what's up, and then projected lineups. So last night was great because the crowd was fired up that Kevin Fiala was back in the lineup. And he came and made an immediate impact with back-to-back assists. I guess broken up a little bit. But he got 2 points out of the game. But I think that's the only thing that the Kings do have on them, except last night kind of deters my point that I'm going to make, is the Kings do have depth, especially with that third line now centered. Blake Lizotte is out. And Todd McClellan actually after the game, I liked this quote. He called Blake Lizotte the Energizer Bunny of the team. And so he said, like, we actually did kind of miss him tonight because going into an OT like this, we could have used that energy and that vibe as far as on the bench and in the locker room. So I think it's interesting because injuries have plagued them. But on the other side, they've gotten injuries back or injured players back. Gabe Vilardi making an immediate impact in Game 2, and then Kevin Fiala making an immediate impact last night. And I think specifically that third line with Grundstrom, Iafallo, and Vilardi centering now that since Blake Lizotte is out is super efficient. So that's my only thing is the Oilers are really good. We knew that they were really good. Power plays were a big story coming into the series. But nonetheless, the Kings have played pretty well against all of their big players and on power play, with the exception of last night. Moving forward, Laz, you tweeted out something today that was awesome. And it's the athlete in you that's showing.
Yeah.
It's a can't lose mentality going into tonight. Instead, I think you worded it. You tell us the tweet.
I said it's not a must win, but it is a can't lose, to which a lot of people replied, what the hell are you talking about? It's the same thing.
My coaching, I've heard it before. So.
It's not the same thing to me. When you think about a must win, your back's against the wall, you're playing for your season, and there's no tomorrow. But a can't lose just flips the entire momentum of the series. So I think for the Rangers tonight, being up 2-1 on home ice, they're not desperate, right? Because, God forbid they lose this game. It's a 2-2 series. They're going to New Jersey, which doesn't have the biggest home ice advantage, and they can win those games. They won both in New Jersey already. So it's not a must win in that sense. But if they lose this game, all the momentum in the series shifts toward New Jersey. And then everyone, I think, on the Rangers side is even more nervous than they are right now. So that's all I was trying to say. A lot of people were a little bit confused, but I think it makes a lot of sense in my mind.
I think there is a lot of pressure on the Rangers to win tonight in Game 4 because, and I was talking about this yesterday, I said, the Devils playing Akira Schmid in net, I thought something changed with the way that the Devils were playing in that game when he was in that. And it looked like a guy who has been playing in the postseason and playing for a while. And I'm a big believer that when you put in a young goaltender, especially in pressure situations like that, where you don't want to go down 3-0, it does something to a team. And we've seen that in recent memory where young guys are getting chances in the playoffs, most notably Matt Murray in 2016, when he was a big reason why the Penguins won in 2016 and obviously in 2017. So I think this is a big game tonight for the Rangers. The pressure is definitely on their side. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the Devils do in terms of how they play, and as well as what Akira Schmid potentially, if in fact he gets the nod for the Devils, what he does for an encore.
Don't put that on me, Shukri.
I am. I'm going to put it on you first.
I'm coming in all confident, and then you just tore it down.
like New Jersey Transit, where they tear things down before they get to Prudential Center, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay, moving along. We could talk Rangers all day, like I could talk Kings all day, but other game tonight. Do the Leafs get over their hump? And then let's start with the Leafs. What do you guys think about the Leafs tonight?
I I keep saying that I want to see them win, and I think they can win, but it's Tampa Bay Lightning we're talking about. They're the hardest team to bet against. I've done it now 2 or 3 years in a row where I'm like, oh, the Lightning can't do it again, and they always prove me wrong. So I'm not making that mistake again. I'll happily be wrong picking the Lightning this time around, but I think Tampa Bay does it again in 7 games. I don't think they lose back-to-back home games. Tonight, obviously, with Toronto and Tampa facing each other, and you look at Andrei Vasilevsky in his playoff history, he rarely loses back-to-back games. So, I think this is a 2-2 series after tonight, and the pressure is always going to be on Toronto.
I actually agree with you, Johnny, on this one, and for not the reason that you would think. The reason why I do is because even though Toronto's up 2-1, I've always been a big believer that if this is a team that is truly going to finally get over the hump, this is a game that Toronto wins. But we've seen this time and time again over the last 10 years that Toronto craps their pants in situations and games like this. There's a reason why I have severe mistrust of the Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and William Nylander core. I don't trust them in big spots like this. How can they handle pressure games like this to actually take a stranglehold on a 3-time defending Eastern Conference champions? Tampa Bay is a sleeping giant. Don't let Steve Stamkos get going. And who knows what happens with Braden Point in terms of his health at this point. That's also the other factor. But Nikita Kucherov is still dangerous. This team is still dangerous. They've been there and done that. So I think they will come out guns blazing tonight in Game 4.
I agree.
Next one, we're going to go West Conference. Avs. Do you think the Avs get the advantage tonight? Devin Taves has been playing out of his mind, much like Nathan McKinnon per usual. What do you guys see happening in this Avs-Kraken game?
For me, I mean, do you want me to start this one, Shukri, or you want to take it?
Go ahead.
I just think, to me, I just don't trust Seattle's goaltending at all. Martin Jones, Philip Grubauer, 2 guys who kind of split the net for most of the year, but neither of them necessarily ran away with it. They won games, but their stats weren't very good. I think for most of the season, their save percentages were both under 900. So, not very consistent goaltending. Listen, the Kraken have a lot of buzz. They play with a lot of speed, but they don't have nearly the amount of talent that Colorado has. I mean, you look at Nathan McKinnon, you look at Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, who had an incredible season this year, putting out 50 goals. Like, this team just has too much firepower up front for them to, lose 4 games out of 7. Seattle's put up a good fight so far, and we can all talk about that Brandon Tanev jinx, when he kisses the crowd, and then they blew a 2-0 lead. And, I do actually want to say Seattle is a place that I would love to see a playoff game because that atmosphere did look electric in Game 3. But I still think I picked Colorado in 5 before the series started, and I think they still finish it in 5.
I still think that Colorado wins this series maybe in 6, but I do think that Colorado, with the experience that they have had, going all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and obviously winning the Stanley Cup, I definitely think that that despite the injuries, that there's a perseverance factor to this team that it just amazes me when you watch this team and how they play and how aggressive that they are on the road. They're fearless. So I don't think them playing in Seattle is going to face them really much at all. And plus, Seattle, this is their first time in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're inexperienced. I mean, and in this case, I think it does apply. And I think that Colorado is they're going to go into this game and say, hey, you know what? Let's go. Well, we know how close opponents out, and they have the opportunity to do that tonight. I mean, not officially, but I do think that this is a team that is very dangerous as we move forward.
I completely agree. To piggyback off of that, I was going to say right before you said that, there's something about them, especially when you see them in person, they just flip a switch. Whereas maybe the other team, whoever they're playing, has that, advantage or whatever. It's like they all look at each other and they're like, yeah, no, we got this. Let's go. All right, let's do a quick whip around. Who is your MVP of the playoffs so far?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Okay, I'll go first.
I already got one. No, Anna,
I got one, and I could get fired from my job for it.
God.
But I literally said in my head when I was thinking this question through without anything, I was like, you know what, guys that popped to mind, little homer right here, not an LA Kings player, but Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard, specifically Evan Bouchard. Also, guys, I was a defenseman growing up, like OG stay at home. So a little bit more of like a Mateus Ekholm type of gal, but nonetheless, his making that trade in the deadline allowed Evan Bouchard to really just open it up and be a little bit more of that offensive defenseman. And we saw even in game one, opened up, I think it was game one or game two, opened it up against the Kings, scored 2 goals. He has 7 points so far through 4 games. I really like him as a defenseman, and also seeing him on the ice, specifically last night. And specifically last night. I'm getting Friday and last night confused, but he's just that guy. He's chirping. He's like an emotional player as well, which I think that's like the between the lines players are big for me.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not a bad pick. Obviously, you can't say anything bad about what those guys are doing right now.
I'm a little biased. Go ahead. You guys, come on.
Shukri, I'll let you go this one. I've been going first a lot, I feel like.
I got the grin on my face because I'm actually licking my chops with this one. I think Jake DeBrusk has a legitimate chance to be a Conn Smythe, because this guy is absolutely nails in the postseason, and you saw it again yesterday in the Bruins Game 4 win. And not to sound like a complete homer or bias, but there's something about DeBrusk this year, and I've been saying it consistently all season long. And in the postseason, he has this track record where he performs, and this guy is going to put up numbers before you know it. If the Bruins do meet in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Rangers, which I did predict, check my Twitter at Shukri Wrights, Jake DeBrusk is going to be a big reason, like a big X factor as to why he wins the Conn Smythe.
So I'm actually going to stick in theme with you, Shukri. I'm going to go with a Boston Bruin as well. I'm going to say Taylor Hall. He stepped up in the absence of Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. Boston needed some depth scoring, and what does he have? 4 goals in 3 games and 7 points. Mm-hmm. Taylor Hall, former MVP of the league, has stepped up when the Boston Bruins have needed it, and that's why Boston's been so good all year long, right? Like, you think back to the beginning of the season, everyone counted Boston out before the year even started because Marchand was out, McAvoy was out, and I think I'm missing someone else. Grizzlick was out as well before the season started, and Boston has had the next man up mentality the entire year, and that's why they set a record this year. So for me, it's Taylor Hall, but then my biased answer is Chris Kreider. 2 power play goals in the first 2 games each, and then a goal in game 3, setting an NHL record, setting Rangers franchise records. I don't know what the series is like without Kreider right now, so that's my biased response. But Taylor Hall to me is just stepped up in a huge time of need for the Bruins.
We like bias because bias makes people happy, also makes people mad.
Yes.
We love to we need a reaction. So the hotter the take, the better, guys. All right, closer. How do we want to close this out? So our closer, Laz, I wanted to, because I went to Syracuse and you're Mr. Long Island. Yep. So I'm going to name a random Syracuse person from Long Island. And I actually thought about it. It's a her. She was a dancer at Syracuse. She was in a sorority. I don't know. I was not a sorority gal. But we bartended together. Her name is Erica Swenson. Swenson? Do you know her?
I don't know her. Unless it was like a blackout night at the bar where I met her. I don't know her.
Maybe. She was very attractive, so I feel like everyone would remember her if they.
Then I would love to know her. Can you introduce me?
But John.
I'm single. Right. My hinge is dry right now.
Listen, I got that same problem. Mumble is dry as hell right now. Like, look,
get on Hinge, Shukri. What are you doing?
I'm on Hinge too. I'm on Hinge and Mumble. Like, my net is wide open.
I met my boyfriend on Hinge, so we're like really.
It's this generation.
I'm a walking ad for Gen Z, I think, right now.
Let's get the Hinge ad for our show.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can meet
Cash, shoot, score, and drink or something. What would be the next?
Cash, shoot, score is a perfect punchline for him. I guess. Too. Yeah. I mean, think about it.
All right, you guys. Any final thoughts, Laz, before you head out to the game tonight? Any final thoughts, you guys?
I think the Rangers smacked the Devils tonight. Finish this thing up in 5.
I do have one final thought, and that is something about this series between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs is about to pop, and I really do, because when you have the general manager Kyle Dubas tripping at fans,
that was awesome.
That's how you know something's about to pop in this series, and I think it is. It may be as early as tonight for Game 4. Who knows?
Let's go. What happens if Rangers Bruins meet each other in the Eastern Conference Finals? What are you guys going to do?
It's going to be a bloodbath.
I'm just going to be stuck in the middle.
I think we're couch surfing, back and forth, Boston, New York.
Yeah.
You got a couch for me up there?
I actually do. Yeah, and right in Brooklyn.
I ain't paying for a hotel, so I'll crash on the couch.
When enemies become friends,
I mean that.
Look at this.
I'm in.
Right
But
on,
what's
guys.
your hot take, Anna? You're not getting away with this one.
Exactly.
My hot take is, you know what? I'll be a homer. I'll be a homer here. I say Kings win it tomorrow in overtime, and then Game 6 is also overtime. And Kings win. I say every single
That's
game
like
is
5
in overtime.
overtimes.
What are the odds on FanDuel?
I'm sick of overtimes, you guys. You know, like if I was just a fan, I'd be like, oh my God, this is great overtime hockey. But now that my ass is in the control room, I'm like, damn, can I get home? Like, what the hell is this, y'all? Like, I'm sick of this. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Heard that.
All right, let's wrap it up. I'm Anna Connelly, Jonny Lazarus, and Shukri Wrights. Thank you so much for joining us on Pass Shoot Score.